In this episode, after crossing into Wyoming and our visit to historic Fort Laramie and the Oregon Trail ruts, we continue west on US Route 26 and merge with Interstate 25 outside of Guernsey, Wyoming for the 175-mile drive to Casper and Camp Walmart, where we plan to spend the night and resupply as we get closer and closer to Montana and the Canadian border on the road to Alaska. From Florida to Alaska, from the East Coast to the West Coast, join Jane and Steve celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, traveling across North America in the Cool Nana Coach, their 27-foot 4 Freedom Elite Class C motorhome, as they visit the many beautiful points of interest in all 50 United States on their golden anniversary adventure. As we continued on Interstate 25, headed toward Billings, Montana, we remembered a trip we took in 1976 to this very area for the 100th commemoration of the Battle of the Little Bighorn. It's on the way, so we decided it would be great to see the site again, and it would be a good place for a rest and lunch.
Turn right on Stonehouse Road, then take the first right.
Our America the Beautiful annual pass saves us the usual $25 National Park Service entry fee. After parking at the visitor center, we enjoyed a quick lunch in the Cool Nana Coach and then hiked up Custer's Hill, also known as Last Stand Hill, where the United States erected a tall memorial obelisk inscribed with the names of the 7th Cavalry's casualties. The remains of about 220 soldiers, scouts, and civilians are buried around the base of the memorial. The white marble headstones scattered over the battlefield denote where the slain troopers were found and originally buried. In 1881, they were reinterred in a single grave on this site. The officers' remains were removed in 1877 to various cemeteries throughout the country. General Custer was buried at West Point. In 1991, the U.S. Congress changed the name of the battlefield and ordered the construction of an Indian memorial. In 1996, the National Park Service, guided by the Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument Advisory Committee, made up of members from the Indian nations involved in the battle, historians, artists, and landscape architects, created the Spirit Warrior sculpture at the Indian Memorial. The bronze sculpture you see silhouetted against the sky is of 3 warriors riding to battle and a woman handing off a shield to one as she watches them ride off seemingly into the sky where the spirit world dwells according to traditional tribal beliefs. Incredible views of the neighboring prairie farmland are found, with herds of cattle and some American bison grazing in the grounds. The panoramic views from Last Stand Hill are incredible. Overlooking the Little Bighorn River, the vast prairie seems to go on forever, with the Bighorn Canyon National Recreation Area and the Yellowstone to the south, the Custer-Gallatin National Forest with its 2-mile-high peaks of the Beaverhead Mountains to the west. This area of Montana presents an excellent opportunity to visit and experience the lands that were home to where Native Americans, buffalo, and antelope once flourished. The headstones located on Last Stand Hill are famously known and pictorially illustrated. Just adjacent to the visitor center is the actual Custer National Cemetery. Like many other national cemeteries, Custer National Cemetery was created after those killed in battle were already buried here. Between 1877 and 1881, troops garrisoned at nearby Fort Custer regularly gathered remains for reburial, recovered graves, and policed the battlefield for exposed bones. By 1881, a memorial was erected in honor of the 7th U.S. Cavalrymen who perished on the battlefield. Prior to the installment of the monument, a trench was dug around the base into which all of the bodies that could be found to that date were placed. Though an attempt was made to rebury all of these individuals, bones discovered since have been buried in the National Cemetery as unknowns. In 1886, President Grover Cleveland ordered the War Department as of December 7th to establish a 1 square mile area for what was to be called the National Cemetery of Custer's Battlefield Reservation. 6 years later, Congress approved the redesignation Custer National Cemetery as Custer National Battlefield. Another name change occurred in 1991 to better honor all of those men who perished in the Battle of the Little Bighorn, separately naming Custer National Cemetery. The Visitor Center has excellent displays of the historic battle between elements of Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry and the estimated 2,500 members of the combined forces of the Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho tribes. The Visitor Center has a treasure trove of historical books and photographs that give accurate testimony of the events that occurred here nearly 150 years ago, as well as the usual assortment of souvenirs and keepsakes. The Visitor Center has excellent displays of the historic battle between elements of Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry and the estimated 2,500 members of the combined forces of the Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho tribes. This area memorializes the U.S. Army's 7th Cavalry and the Lakota and Cheyenne in one of the Indians' last armed efforts to preserve their way of life. Here on June 25th and 26th, 1876, 263 soldiers, including Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer and attached personnel of the U.S. Army, died fighting several thousand Lakota and Cheyenne warriors.